Today I'm gonna start working on Emmanuel, the hero, and maybe probably some great creatures if I have time. So let me check out the stream, see how it works. Okay, so that's how. I'm trying out this Restream.io where you can stream to multiple platforms at the same time. I'm just checking to see how it looks. Okay. Nice. Let me turn off my alarm, my notifications. So, and the operating system that I'm using, in case you guys want to know, is called MX Linux. Oops, cancel. It's pretty useful, and it's actually very good for this type of streaming, graphics creating, things like that, because it works well. It's not buggy. Well, to a certain extent, it's not really buggy, and it's very stable. It doesn't crash on you, and that's pretty much what usually MX Linux, MX operating systems are usually like that. They're lightweight, fast, and they always work. So let me go to the neutral faction, the neutral folder. Then the Knights of Themis. That's the new expansion that I'm working on. I'm taking my time to work on it because I'm not really in a rush to do it. So I already have a lot of cards already that I can release from the previous expansions. So I'm not really in a rush to release this one. So let's go to Heroes and Skills. Let's go to Emmanuel. And Emmanuel, let's go down a bit. Let me see if I can create a new note. Oops, it's just over at the top. What? Okay, so there are two notes. Note one. Note two. Okay, that's better. So Emmanuel, I'm still working on the name. I might change it, I might not. She's the Knight of Virtue. So her theme, the theme of her cards, I'm thinking, the theme of her cards are geared towards the theme of her cards are geared towards token creatures, squires, because this is an expansion based around squires and knights. So I'm trying to I think her focus is more towards squires and token creatures, as can be seen from the. I'm still not done with them because there's still things to edit from them. But as can be seen from this, where its effects after you played on battlefield says squires, you play game +1 attack points until the end of the turn that they are played. Then when a squire enters under your control first dies in the turn, gain +1 health point. So that health point is the player getting the health point, not the heroes, because heroes do not have health points. And to recap, this is attack points this is defense points and this is health points. Players also have the same attack points, defense points, and health points. And how this works is a player's starting health point when they start a game, it's 0, 0, 27. So they have 27 health points, 0 defense points, and 0 attack points. But when they play a hero, the hero's stat points, which is usually an attack point and a defense points, because heroes do not have health points. The hero stat points get added to the players until the heroes removed from the battlefield. So the more heroes you have on the battlefield, the more stats you gain. But you can only have one hero on the battlefield. But they're like in the future, I'm planning to create more heroes and more cards with effects that give you more options on the amount of heroes you can have on the board on your side. So players that want to play more heroes and have more heroes in their decks can create decks just focused on heroes. So this attack points, which is 0, gets added to the players. Obviously, the players' attack points also 0, so it's useless. Then defense point, which is 4, gets added to the player's attack point, which becomes 4. And how defense point on players work is every time a player is attacked, every time a player is attacked, it's damage during a turn. The damage is deducted from the player's defense points before they can be deducted from the player's health points. So if a player is dealt 4 damage in a turn, the 4 damage will go to the defense points, will be deducted from the defense points first, and then 0 damage will be deducted from the health points. And then the next time during that same turn, if a player gets dealt 1 damage, that 1 damage will be immediately deducted from the player's health points, because they've already used their defense point for that turn. Then at the start of the next turn, or at the end of the turn, end of that same turn, it's like the last effect that comes into play, the last rule that applies before a player gets a new turn, before the next player gets a turn, is that the defense points of the player resets back to its its original value. So that value right now is 4. So at the next player's turn, that 4 defense points, it's reinstated again. So the next time they are damaged during that turn, it has to be first deducted from the defense points before they can be deducted from the health points. So this card is pretty useful because it can set the health points of all players to 27. So you can use this defensively, or you can use this offensively. So if a player has more than 27 health, if an opponent player has more than 27 health, you can set that health back to 27, so you can easily deal with them. And at the same time, if you have less than 27 health and you're desperate for health points, you can use this to set your health points back to 27 and save you a few more turns. And like I've said in the last stream, the last video, there are 4 every card. Well, only advanced cards. There are 2 types of cards. They're basic cards, then they're advanced cards. Basic cards only have 1 copy. So let me give you an example of a basic card. 1 second. So cards, neutral. I guess I'll do it this way. I just go back to the creatures that I've explained before. This is a basic card. It doesn't have any stats. It has a critical cost of 6, a name, card image, picture, and then attack points. This is a creature card, so it has an attack point, a defense point, and a health point. And then a subtype, which is human. And then advanced cards can be different copies of a basic card, or they can just be advanced cards like this. heroes do not have are all advanced cards. They do not have a basic version of them. But how a hero works, how advanced cards work is, like I said before, there's a common advanced card, a rare. Every advanced card has 4 versions: a common version, a rare version, which can be seen here, a unique version, which can be seen here, and a brilliant version. So that's pretty much just the theme of all advanced cards, and they have the same color. So every card that has a blue, background color, it's a unique advanced card. Every card that has not every card that has this color, because basic cards also have that color. But the difference between a basic card and an advanced card is that a basic card doesn't have this WASCII, coding to it. So let me show you. The creatures are easier to differentiate, because the difference between a basic creature and a common creature is that a common creature always has a name, a title belt, while the basic creature doesn't. So if you see any creature that doesn't have a title belt and it's the same color, that's pretty much a given that it's a basic creature. And the benefit of a basic creature, like I said before, is you can have as many basic cards within the rules as you can. And creatures are the cards that pretty much have no limits on the amount of, you can have as many creatures on your board as possible. But you can only have one hero on your board. You can only have one domain on your board, even though there are basic domains, but you can only have one domain on the board anyways. So you can't have multiple domains to begin with. But creatures, you can have as many creatures as possible. So it comes in the common and the basic, differentiation comes in when we're really talking about creatures, because that's really when really when you start hitting the card limits for the common, rare, unique, and brilliant cards, because each version has a different limit, the amount of cards you can have on the board. So let me show you a regular card. So let's go here. Let's go to crystals. Amplified crystal. Okay. So this is a common card. You see it has the same, hold on a second. It has the same waxy appearance as this one. See the waxy appearance? And then let me show you a common version of it. The common version looks plain. You see? A common card usually doesn't have any effects whatsoever. So that's pretty much the biggest differentiator. The common card, a basic card doesn't have any effects, and other than creatures that have crystal cost, every other basic cards do not have a crystal cost. So common crystals do not have a crystal cost, and basic crystals do not have a crystal cost, and basic domains also do not have a crystal cost. And also do not have that waxy, coating on them. They don't have any effects in their effects box, description boxes. They don't have a crystal cost on the right side, and they have they have a plain color, great color. So, hey, let me show you I think I showed before the live stream, but let me just finish. Let me just quickly explain the differences. So, see the common version, it gives the squires you play +1 attack points, and gives you +1 health points. The rare version gives you +2 health attack points and +2 health points, and then the unique version gives you +3 attack points, +3 health points. Then the brilliant version gives you +4 attack points, +4 health points. And you can use any of these in your deck. There's no, there's pretty much no limits on how you can arrange how many. You can only have 3 copies of a Emmanuel Well hero in your deck. So you can only have 3 copies of a card with the same name in your deck. But those copies can be common, rare, unique, or brilliant, and they can also be any hero with the same name. So it can be you can mix and match. You can have one of these, and one of these, or you can have all 3 of these, all 3 of these, or all 3 of these. So you can pretty much just play the game in any way you want, and that's pretty much the theme of the game, is to give you as many options as possible. And each expansion comes with its own set of creatures. So if you like a certain expansion, you pretty much have I try to make every expansion its own mini game, where it has its own theme, has its own set of cards that work together. They synergize together. So you can pretty much have as many. I try to create as many options as possible for each expansion. So you can literally just play the game using only one expansion. Using cards from only one expansion, and never run out of options to play. Of decks to create. At the same time, you can still mix and match between different factions. Different expansions and different factions, and different crystal costs. Because each crystal cost, there are different types of crystal costs, depending on the faction, depending on the expansion, and depending on the hero that you're playing. So you can mix and match between each expansion. You can mix and match within expansions. You can mix and match heroes, because heroes have multiple skills. For example, I'm planning to create at least 100 plus skills for each of these heroes. So there's 7 heroes. Sorry about that. There's 7 heroes, and each hero there's 7 versions of them, and each version has 4 different copies of it. And then the skills also have. I'm trying to create at least 100 skills. Each 100 unique skills. So if you want to play a hero, you can play it as many times as you want. You can change your gameplay while playing the same hero. You can switch cards. You can switch skills just to see which one works. So you can pretty much each hero is pretty much has its own depth when it comes to character customization, and skill customization, and card customization. And then not only do you have skills, heroes to work with, you also have great creatures. I haven't created that many great creatures, but you also have great creatures that also, some of them help certain heroes, and some of them are pretty much just more neutral, expansion neutral. And the great creatures are always based around that expansion. They always synergize with the same cards of the expansion. But naturally, since it's a whole ecosystem of cards, you can naturally still play the same great creatures for a different expansion if you want to. Let's say for this, right now there's only 5. I've only created 5 great creatures, but from previous expansions, you can see that like the Rise of the Burning Clan expansion, there's over 28 great creatures that I've created, and I have more, but I just haven't added them to created cards out of them. At the same time, so not only do you have these great creatures to work with, and some of them have common, rare, unique, and brilliant versions, while some don't, you also have great creatures from the Gatha's Welcoming expansion. which is this. So they have great creatures to work with from this. And there's 2 sets I created, yeah, because I pretty much went overworld with Guther's Welcoming. There's 15 here, and then there's about 30 here. And some of them have common, rare, unique, and brilliant versions, while some don't. Oh, it's I don't really think this is all of it. Old Saboteur. That's not it. Yeah, usually most of Gatharago's card, or the Gathar's expansion great creatures are pretty much very powerful because the hero is very powerful. So I usually have more. They're usually more brilliant great creatures than common, rare, and unique. So this is the creature. Yeah, the Gathar's expansion is pretty much more token creatures based. So it'll probably work well with this hero because this hero also has a lot of it's also token creatures based and squire based. So I would like to see the synergy that's comes up between these two expansions, because this expansion can be played using it's pretty much just more of a neutral expansion where you can play the cards of this expansion using any crystal that you want. So it just makes it much easier to play the heroes. And then after you have, not only do you have creatures, each expansion also has a set of leaders. So you can play with the leaders, you can play with the spells, you can play with the leaders, you can play with the heroes, you can play with the skills. You can mix and match the skills, heroes, you can mix and match the leaders. The domains also have their own effects. There are advanced domains that have their own effects, so you can play with the domains as well. And they also have four copies to choose from. And then you have crystals as well that also have 4 copies to choose from. And there are also different varieties of crystals. And they all do their own thing too. So the game really gives you a lot of options when it comes to creating your deck. And the purpose of having these 4 copies is so that decks do not have to when you create a deck or you see a deck online and you actually like that deck, if you want to change, you can tweak the deck. You don't want to change the cards in the deck, but you don't really like the way the deck plays for you. You can actually tweak it and change the versions, the advanced versions of the card. So if the deck contains a certain brilliant card like this one, and you don't want this brilliant card, you can swap it out for a common card, a common version of it, just to see how it works. So decks gives you more freedom when you're building a deck, and when you're copying the deck from somewhere on the website online. And also if you want to play the same deck again, you like the deck, but you just want to see how it would play with different with the different version of the cards. You can also do that. So it really gives you more variety of how to play your own deck, how to play your own game. So let's start working on the Emmanuel Great hero. Let's go neutral. Knights of Themis. Yeah. Hold on a second. Mania. And then I don't think I'm done with this one, but let me see. So creatures under your control gains occult. Occult means it can't be targeted by effects and abilities. So it can be targeted by effects that are under the control of opponent players. So while they're under your control, they gain a cult. So if they move from your control, so if they move from your side of the battlefield to another's, they lose that effect. So when a creature first enters the battlefield under your control in a turn, it gains your choice of quick, means it can attack that turn, or brave, means it can attack any other creature that has a high crystal cost, or not. But if it does, after it attacks, if it survives the attack, its stat points are doubled. So let me start with this. Let me go into the next one. The next hero. So I think I've created 4 heroes so far. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So let me. Yeah. So she's token creatures. She's pretty much just creature oriented, or creatures focused hero. And also, like I stated in the last stream, she's also favored by a Titan called I forgot the name of the Titan. I don't think this one's merciful, right? I think I may have messed up somewhere from the last video. So card backs, normal card backs. So she should be the Titan of Mercy. Yeah, I think it's this one. The Titan of Mercy, Optimism. But let me just make sure. I can tell you the tool that I use, which I can't really display on the screen here. But the tool that I use is Color Note, and it makes it much easier to to structure your ideas, to have it all in one place. Yep, and I was right. So it's the Titan that she's that favors her is called Helios, the Titan of Mercy. So her theme is pretty much creatures, virtue, and mercy. And also the title of that of Helios is Optimist. So her cards have this theme: optimism, mercy, and virtue. So let me start with the next one. And let me show you what I'm about to write. So Emania. Well, and if you control, this is pretty much just the basic effect, like right here. See, if you control lightning domain, entry 2, if not entry 1. So I'm just gonna do it here, and then just transfer it over, so you can see what I'm actually doing. Control the lightning. Lightning domain. Entry 2, if not entry 1. And then let me see, just to make sure that everything is fine. Yep, everything's fine. So entry 1, and then the first ability, because an ability is something you can choose to activate or not, and usually abilities are always below, always listed below the word the entry keyword, which means when, like, let me just give you for example this one. If you control a lightning domain on your side of the battlefield, you can choose 2 effects. That's what entry 2 means. You can choose 2 effects. You can activate 2 effects or choose 2 effects when you play this card, or not. You can do 1 or you can do 2 or less. But if you do not control a lightning domain on your side of the battlefield, you can only choose 1 when you play this card and it enters your side of the battlefield. So that's what the entry stands for. While that's the difference between effects and abilities. Effects, primary effects or effects, do not you always choose them. You can't choose not to activate them when you play them. While abilities, you can choose to activate them or not. And you can only, abilities can only be activated when the card enters the battlefield. While effects can only be activated. Effects can be active. Some effects can be active. Can trigger, or can be activated or can be activated at different zones of the game board. So there's the battlefield, the mortuary, the player's hand, player's deck, and the void zone. I think the player's hand is obviously self-explanatory. Same with the deck. The mortuary is it's your discard pile. So after a card dies, or when you discard a card from your hand or your deck, it goes into your mortuary. After a card dies on the battlefield, or is removed from the battlefield, or is killed, or is destroyed, or is replaced, it goes into your mortuary. So some effects can trigger or can trigger in the mortuary, or they can most effects, unless stated, only trigger on the battlefield after being played. But some effects can actually tell you that, hey, while this card is it's in your deck, do this. While this card is in your hand, do this. While this card is on the battlefield, do this. While this card is in your mortuary, do this. So that's pretty much how it works. Effects have more range at where they can trigger, where they can activate, where the actions can occur, while abilities can only be activated or chosen on the battlefield. So let's start with the next hero. So at the start of your turns, oops, this is so confusing. I guess I should probably look for a different note option. Oops. I'm gonna close this. Okay. Alright, start of your turns. This is one of the abilities. Deal 1 damage to sorry. Deal 1 plus X damage to an opponent. Cancel. It's an opponent player. And X is half the number of spells in your mortuary. So half the number of spells in your discard pile. Then the first advanced card played by you during your turn. Cost 1 plus X crystals less to play. And also the same clause. X is half the number of spells in your mortuary. So the reason why I created this hero with spells is because the lightning domain already has a hero that is spell focused. There's already a hero that's already kind of focused with spells. So I just wanted to give players more options when it comes to playing this hero. So in case there's already a lightning domain. So if that lightning domain, the lightning domain came with a hero that's focused on spells. So having this effect should probably help that domain a bit more. So I just have to put it here now. The reason why I wrote it here is that you can at least see it. Because if I place it here, it'll be harder to see until I'm done. So at the start of your turn, so let me see. So opponent player. So deal 1 plus X damage to an opponent player. X is half the half the number of spells in your mortuary. Okay. Then this one, the first advance card played by you during your turn cost 1 plus X crystals less to play. X is half the number of spells in your mortuary. There we go. And the reason why I included the 1 instead of just deal X damage to an opponent player, X being half the number of spells in your mortuary, is that since some advanced cards have to have four different copies, I have to at least have some sort of number to work with. So either I'll work with this number, or I'll add a number to the effects that it can increase or decrease depending on the rarity, or if I do not have an effect to work with, a number within an effect to work with, I just increase these stats. So the stats help when I have to do different versions. Cards with stats, it's easier to create effects for them, because they don't really have to have effects with numbers, because they already have stats that I can increase or decrease. I can also work with crystal cost. I can decrease the crystal cost too, but I generally don't tend to mess with the crystal cost of cards until unless I think it's necessary, or it's I like the card a lot and I just want to see something different. But I haven't really messed with the crystal cost of cards when it comes to rarities. Usually when you want to mess with the crystal cost, it's obviously to reduce it. Increasing the crystal cost obviously doesn't help. So I'll probably only stream for about an hour and then call it a day for today. So let me do this, finish this one off. Then now that I've finished the effects, now it's pretty much working the crystal costs, the attack points, and the defense points of this hero. So I think this is pretty much where I can change. This is where, you know, the I spend most of my time working on sometimes, is trying to get the right crystal cost and the right attack points for the for each card that has crystal cost and attack points. So this one, let me try 4 just to see how it looks. Oops. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I guess I'll go with 4. It may not seem like it matters, but the attack points, the defense points really help a lot when you're dealing with creatures and heroes. I mean, creatures and leaders, because the only 3 card types that have attack points, defense points, and or health points, or stats. That's what they're called. Statistic points are creatures, heroes, and leaders. Heroes cannot die because they do not have health points to begin with. Well, they can die when they're killed, but since they do not have health points, how health points work is when a health point of a creature or leader goes to 0, they're dead or they die. They must be removed from the battlefield and placed in a mortuary. Obviously, heroes do not have that, so they can't obviously die from having their health points reduced because they don't have health points to begin with. So having an attack point, having a high attack point or some attack points stops you from being harassed by creatures with 1 attack points and 1 health point, because the attack points are your attack points will be deducted from the health points of each creature, from the creatures that attack you. So if you have 2 health points and there are 2 creatures that have 1 attack point and 1 health point, that 2 health points will be distributed. You can distribute it between those 2 creatures. So it has to be distributed between the creatures. You can't distribute 2 attack points to 1 creature and 2 attack points to another creature unless you have 4 attack points to work with. And you have to when you have let's say you have a creature that has 1 attack point and 2 health points, or 1 attack point and 1 health point. If you assign 2 health, when you assign health attack points, when they attack you, when you assign attack points, your 2 attack points has to be either allocated to 1, and then the remainder from that one. So let's say you allocate it first to the creature that has 1 attack points, 1 defense, 1 attack point, 1 health points. You can only assign 1 because they only have 1 health points. So after you assign all of them to pretty much you assign it to equal to the amount of damage that you can deal before they die. So the creature only has 1 health point. So when you distribute your damage, you only distribute 1 to that creature, and then you distribute the remaining 1 to the one that has 1 attack points and 2 health points. But if you do the exact opposite, you have to and you want to distribute your 2 attack points to the creature that has 1 attack point and 2 health points, you have to distribute all 2 health points, all 2 attack points to that creature, and then the creature with the 1 attack points and 1 defense point survives, because obviously you didn't do any attack damage to it. So that's how attack damage works and attack points work. So this one I'll give it 0. 0 attack points. Let me make sure this is yeah. So I'll give it 0 attack points because it's, you can see the card is more defensive. You don't really need, you know, you just need to survive until you already have spells. You just need to pretty much just survive until you have enough spells in your mortuary. And then the cards you play cost 1 less, 1 plus X less, and you deal 1 plus X damage to an opponent player at the start of your turns. So you don't really have to worry about damage that much with this hero. So you don't really need that. You don't really need attack points. Then now for the crystal cost. Let me think about it. So this is a very powerful effect. Being able to reduce the number of cards that, being able to reduce the crystal cost of cards you play, it's actually a very powerful effect. And being able to deal a lot of damage to an opponent player, you can literally just one shot at an opponent player in one turn using this, you know. So I think I'll give it a higher crystal cost. That's weird. Okay. And the crystal cost will be 23. And it doesn't seem that powerful right now, but you can see that since you can choose it, since there are 4 different versions of it, the brilliant version of this will be dealing 4 damage plus X, which is half the number of spells in your mortuary. So this hero is actually very useful to finish off after you play. After you make a deck full of spells, this will be a perfect hero to play at the end of, you know, at late game, when you have no other spells in your hand, and you have no way to, you know, to deal that extra damage to kill your opponent. So after you finish playing your spells, you can just fall back on this hero. You play it, and then at the start of your turn, from then on, you can just pretty much just one shot your opponents. So hero, I create a folder. Mania. Well. 5. Then file, save as. I generally don't put a comment tag in front of it, since obviously it's the first one. But the rare, unique, and brilliant versions always have a comment tag in front of it. I always start with a common, rare, unique, and brilliant. So come here. Then deal 4 damage. Deal 4 damage. Save as. Then this will be the brilliant version. Then I go back to the stats. Let me check my frame rate real quick. CPU is 41%, so it's not too high. So 3, file, save as, unique. Then 2 version. I mean the rare version. Excuse me. And then rare. So pretty much after I finish creating each hero copy, each hero version, I tend to go back again just to make sure I have the, I'm okay with the stats that it has, the crystal cost. That's pretty much like the last thing that I usually worry about, the crystal cost and the stats of the heroes. Some crystal costs, some of them, this, some of them look, the effects look, innocent, but then when you start playing it, if the crystal cost doesn't match to a certain extent, doesn't match the effects, the card becomes very, very powerful and very hard to to play against. So now Manual 5, that's done. So this one should be a bit easier, I think. I just have to go back a few times. So I'm gonna close this. At least get a bit more frame rate. There we go. Let's go back to the common version. And this one starts off with the keyword merciful. If you want to learn, what these keywords are, you probably watched the last stream, because I explained it there. It's really not that. It's not that complicated. This game pretty much works off keywords, because there's so many effects. I'm trying to make it as as customizable as possible. So I try to have I try to shorten the keywords, try to shorten the effects of keywords. That way it's easier for me to work with, because the cards already have so many effects that if I don't shorten them down to keywords, the whole effects description box won't be big enough for it. So it has merciful, and also it has reanimate 1. Oops. Reanimate. And then leaders, enter the battlefield under your control. With Undying. And then squires, enter the battlefield under your control with brave. Simple effect. And the only thing I would probably change in this one is probably the reanimate. And what reanimate means is that it's pretty much just like merciful. When you play this card, you can summon an indicated number of token creatures that has an equal crystal cost or lower to the heroes, to this card. So you can summon what this one pretty much states is you can summon a token creature from your mortuary that that has a crystal cost of 23 or lower. So this is a simple hero. So now I just have to see, it doesn't have anything for me to work with when it, other than that part. This part doesn't really have anything for me to work with when it comes to the common rare unique and brilliant version. And even if I don't have this, I can, like I said before, I can just work with the stat points of the hero instead. So I'm thinking this will be 0 because I don't really see it. Usually the lower the better. Unless when the effects are this powerful, Undying, that pretty much just means that during another player's turn, your leaders can't be killed. That's pretty much what the effect means. So it's very, very powerful. So having a very powerful effect, the heroes usually shouldn't have that. Also have a very high stat points, because that would just make the critical cost higher. That would make me have to increase the critical cost. And if I don't, then the hero will be way too powerful. But I'm thinking, since this one really let me see if I increase this number, if to 5. Oops, to 5. Because this leader this hero only has the effects really isn't. It's powerful if you have leaders, but it's really not that powerful. And you can see their effects like kill cards. I forgot what the full extent of what this keyword means, but I know that it means your leaders can't. A card that has a creature or leader that has Undying remains on the battlefield after health points is reduced to 0 during another player's turn. So it can't die in that sense, but they're cards that just kill cards. And a kill effect is actually kind of different, but it has the same result as a card dying. So I'll just have to go back to look at it. And let me actually just do that right now. And I can also just show you the instructions of the game as well. Card details, old version. There we go. So let me scroll down. To Undying. There we go. Card Undying cannot die during another player's turn. Okay, so this actually. So the card can't die, so it can't be killed. So yeah, that just pretty much just makes it, the card just pretty much becomes invincible during another player's turn. And then this effect, it's only useful if you have, if you play squires that can actually survive attacking another creature. If they can't, then it's pretty much not that useful. So let me see the crystal cost first. So I'm thinking between 5, 4, 3, 2, or 0 for that attack point. Because naturally, higher attack points means that you can deal with creatures, so creatures aren't harassing you all the time. Low cost creatures aren't harassing you. But at the same time, having this, changing it to 0 means that cards that that are very aggressive can at least win when facing you, because this card can actually get can get overboard, because they're pretty much there. There's a deck right now that's pretty much just leaders. There's a lightning deck that's pretty much leaders oriented, and it's already very powerful. Not to mention the fact that now leaders can die. Not that leaders can die. It just makes it even more powerful. But I'll leave it like that for now. Then I'll work with the crystal cost, because it's not just balancing. It's also trying to make a good hero that people want to play. And I think I'll load this crystal cost a little bit, because the effect is powerful, but it's not as powerful as the last one, because the last one is just the last one deals straight to your deals damage straight to the opponent, so the opponent can defend against that one. To a certain extent, they can defend against that one, while this one they can. They just have to have creatures that block the leaders. So I'll leave it like this for now. Then save as. Just copy this. New folder. Manual well 6. Yeah, so the leader doesn't really have that much defense. So if you want to, this hero doesn't have that much defense. If you want a hero that protects you a bit more, you can go, you can look for a different hero. But at the same time, it's more attack oriented. So when you're getting attacked by a bunch of lower cost creatures, he can actually protect you. But for higher cost creatures that have higher, health points, survivability, this really may not help you that much, while this one will. Okay. So the next one, all I have to do now is increase this. But let me just make sure before I do that. Okay. I think I may change this from reanimate 2, to reanimate 1 to reanimate something else. That way the basic version is more powerful. Okay. Yeah, let me increase this by a little bit. Okay. So I think this is a bit better. So at least when you first play this card, you can, if you play in a tokens deck, you can at least have, you can summon. It comes with two token creatures that you can just have to protect you in case you need to, or you can also have it to attack in case you need to, because the token creatures could be squires as well, so you can use it. When you play it, they all automatically have brave. That's if they're squires or not. Okay, so now this is 2, 3, 4, 5. So it goes up by 1 for each rarity. Then brilliant. I may change this later on, but that's pretty much after I've finished creating all the heroes. Then I just have to go back again. Then so hero stats. I just want to finish. Actually, I was thinking about only being streaming for an hour, but I actually just want to finish this hero for today. So I only have one left, and then tomorrow we can continue on for the next hero. Oops, it's supposed to go down now. or file save as unique, and then the last one is the rare version. So leaders under your control. Leaders enter the battlefield under your control with Undying. Squires enter the battlefield under your control with Brave. Sometimes, you know, it's easy to misspell since the text box is so small. And the text box is small simply because of I'm using a TV screen as my monitor. So it's just not working right for it. But for a laptop or probably a desktop, you know, a desktop monitor, it'll probably adjust to the right, you know, to the right size. So file, where, and now for the last hero. And this hero has a different keyword. It naturally has merciful. There we go. So that's pretty much one of the themes of this hero. It now has optimistic. And optimistic means that usually you can only play cards from your hand, but with optimistic status, which is pretty much different from, it's like an effect, but it's an effect that can't turn off. So an optimistic status is that when you can only play cards from your hand, but with the optimistic status, while the card is in any other zone other than your hand or the battlefield, as long as you can see it, you can play it on the battlefield. That's most what the optimistic means. So there's a war cry. Forgot about that. A war cry is an on-play effect. So after the card, once you play it, it only triggers after you play it. So the effect only occurs immediately after you play it, and after you play it on the battlefield, obviously. So summon. A squire from your mortuary with a crystal cost that's equal to. So it's pretty much just the same as this war cry. It's pretty much just the same as reanimate to a certain extent, but see how it has so many words to describe it, while reanimate is just 1, 2, 3, 4 characters. That's it. It's equal to or lower than this heroes. Let's see if it fits in the effects description box, and it does. So So summon a squire from your mortuary with a crystal cost that's equal to or lower than this hero's. But that's a war cry. And the reason why there's a difference between a war cry and a reanimate is that they're actually effects that work off war cries. You know, effects that synergize with war cries versus effects that synergize with reanimate. Because reanimate is pretty much just one effect. So a reanimate it's pretty much just the same effect every time, but a war cry changes, because simply what the war cry indicates is that when this card enters the battle, when you play this card and it first enters the battlefield, do this effect. So when this card first enters the battlefield, summon a squire from your mortuary with a critical cost that's equal to or lower than this hero's. While the reanimate effect is always the same. It doesn't change. The only thing that changes is the number of token creatures they can summon. While this one actually there is a huge difference. This one says Squire, while Reanimate only works on token creatures. So a token creature could be a Squire, or it could be a rat creature, it could be a human, it could be a Burin creature. Those are like the three creatures right now from the 3 different expansions. While a Squire is a Squire, which is pretty much only creatures from this expansion can have the Squire tag, have the Squire name. And this war cry, let me give you a different example of a war cry. I think one of these have war cries. No, not this one. Excuse me. Actually, let me leave this and then come here. Let's go back to creatures real quick. During creatures, it doesn't really matter. I think Warlord. No, this one doesn't have a war cry. That doesn't have a war cry. That doesn't have a war cry. This one has a war cry, I think. Spellcrafter. See how this war cry effect is different from this war cry effect. This one is summon a Squire. While this war cry is the next spell that you play this turn gains an effect of a spell in your mortuary with a crystal cost that's equal to or lower than this creature's. So this war cry is obviously different from that one. So the war cry effects has more, it has a higher range of effects, while Reanimate only has one. So let's move on to the next. So as you can see, that all the effects above this entry keyword are effects or primary effects, so they always activate after when the card is played, or at certain terms depending on the card, like Optimist. This is a status, so it's kind of different because it's always on, while effects trigger when the card first can activate when the card first enters the zone on the game board. So it's just a simple way to differentiate between an effect, a primary effect, and a secondary effect or an ability. So the primary effects are always above entry keywords, so they're always like the first thing stated of a card. So those are the primary effects of the card. Then the secondary effects are the effects that you can decide to choose or not, and the secondary effects are also called abilities. So you have primary effect that you always have to choose. You can't choose not to. For this Warcry effect, if there isn't a creature on the board, in your mortuary, that's only when this Warcry effect won't trigger, but it still activates, but it just won't trigger because you don't have a target for it. But the same with this Merciful, but that's only if you don't have a target for it. But this one is different. And actually, the Warcry effect you can only play a card with a primary effect with the target if you have the target on your side of the game board. So if you don't have a mortuary in your if you don't have a square in your mortuary, it's hard to play this hero. Same with but the abilities, you can play them, or you can play the heroes whenever you want after you've met this requirement. But you don't have to meet the requirements of the abilities themselves to play the hero. So the abilities gives you more freedom to choose them or not, while the effects doesn't. So at the start of your turns, move a card with the crystal cost of let me see what crystal cost is supposed to be. Crystal cost of X or lower. Oh yeah, I forgot. There's a clause that I forgot to add. Let me first save it to see how. Nope, I don't like it this way. So let me rearrange this to make it look a bit cleaner. Then the summoned creature gains quick. So that's a bit better, I think. So at the start of your turn, move a card with a critical cost that's I think it's 4 or lower. I think I'll make it 4 or lower. Into your hand. Then reduce its crystal cost to 0. So it's a powerful effect. Let's see how this. It's sometimes it's very hard to align the end of the text, simply because some words, obviously the words do not line up perfectly. So at the start of your turns, move a card with a critical cost of 4 or this is why I reread it. 4 or lower into your hand, then reduce its critical cost to 0. So it costs 0 critical cost to play. Then the first time an advanced card enters the battlefield, or the battlefield part, battlefield's always long, battlefield under your control during your turn, look at the top look at the top 4 or bottom 4 cards of your deck. You may play any number of them. So how it works is, the first time an advanced card enters the battlefield under your control during your turn, look at the top 4 or bottom 4 cards of your deck. You may play any number of them, or move any number of them into your mortuary. Any number of them, or move any number of them into your mortuary. So since it's running up the field, the text box, you just have to expand it a bit. There we go. So I just have to read it again. Merciful, optimistic, and then summon a squire from your hand for your mortuary with a critical cost that's equal to or lower than this hero's. The summoned creature gains quick. That means it can attack the same turn, which otherwise doesn't happen if a creature after you play a creature. At the start of your turns, move a card with a critical cost of lower or 4 or lower into your hand, then reduce its critical cost to 0. The first time an advanced card enters the battlefield under your control during your turn, look at the top 4 or bottom 4 cards of your deck. You may play any number of them. Okay, that's where I messed up. You may play any. I guess I can just, instead of doing all that, I can expand this a bit. Move this down. Or I can, no, that doesn't work. I can just leave it like that. And then this one, crystal. Okay. And this here at the battlefield. I'll end this one here at the bottom. You may play any number of them, or move any number of them. Okay. And then now I just have to squeeze it back. And elongate it. So, okay. So at the start of your turn, move a card with the crystal cost of 4 or lower into your hand. Then reduce the crystal cost to 0. The first time an advanced card enters the battlefield under your control during your turn, look at the top 4 or bottom 4 cards of your deck. You may play any number of them or move any number of them into your mortuary. Excuse me. So now for the stat points. I think I'll start with 1. Oops. Or maybe 3. Let me see. Let me just place it at 3 first. And then I think this isn't too bad. So the thing I can increase this number right here, but I probably shouldn't. I can increase these two, which I probably will. So if I increase these two, I probably should increase this, because it would just make it even way more powerful than it already is. And the cost, I'll have to increase the cost. So I'm just thinking about the crystal cost now. So I can increase it, or I can decrease it. Let me go back to the before I think about crystal cost. Let me go back to this real quick. I think I'll make it 0 because I think that's way too high. Oops. So either 0 or 1. Yeah, I'll just make it. Oops. There we go. 1. Okay. So 1 attack points, 3 attack, 1 attack point, 3 defense points. And now for the crystal cost. So the defense point helps, like I said, against defense point is always useful, because every time the first time you're dealt damage, it at most removes 3 damage from you each turn when you dealt damage that turn. So that's, if you have 5 and you deal damage every turn, that's 3 damage removed every single turn. So it adds up very quickly. So this one, guess I'll make it. I'll change it to 20 and see just how it looks. So 20. Let me see real quick. And then usually I also play test it afterwards, just to, just to see whether I'm okay with the stats, the crystal cost, and the effects. Usually I am, unless it's pretty much just outrageous. Okay. So now for the brilliant version. So 4, 5, 6, 7. So this goes up to 7. So I can either increase this number or increase this number. Likewise, actually no, this will be 7. I can only increase this number. I can increase this so from being the first time to being the first, second, and third time, or the first, second, third, and fourth time, while this number stays the same. Because the first is obviously still a number, indicates a number, so it can be first, second, and third, or fourth. I can increase this part, or I can increase this one. Yeah. So I'll increase that. Okay. So before that, let me recheck before I do that. Okay. Yeah, so it's 4. So that's why it's I'll increase this, summon. I'll make it up to 4 simply because of the wording of the cards. So if it says summon 4 creatures, that means you have to have 4 creatures in your mortuary before you can play this card. But if it says summon up to 4 squires, that means you can summon 4 or less. So if you only have 1 squire in your mortuary, you can still play this card if you have a squire. But if you only have, if you have 4, you can summon 4. If you have 3, you can summon 3. Even if you have 4 and you only want to summon 2, you can do that too. You don't have to summon all 4. So it gives you more, freedom. So 4. This is 7. This is 7. And this is 7. So you can see how powerful the card gets. So you can, when you play this card, you can summon up to 4 squires from your mortuary. The summon cards gain quick, which means they can attack the same turn they are played. So move a card with a crystal cost of 7 or lower into your hand, then reduce the crystal cost to 0 at the start of your turns. And the first time an event card enters the battlefield under you. Oh, so that's why I messed up. So enters the battlefield under your control. So the first time an event card enters the battlefield under your control during your turn, look at the top 7 cards or bottom. There we go. Here we go. Or bottom 7 cards of your deck. You may play any number of them. Move any number of them into your mortuary. Good small amount of attack points to defend yourself against the swarm of low cost creatures. Some health points to save you every turn. So this is the brilliant version. You can see why it's brilliant. It's very powerful. And then now for the unique version. So pretty much once I'm done with this, that'll be it for this this string. 6, 6, save, close. File save as. That's the unique version. And then summon 2 squares. Then 5, 5, 5. So this is a very powerful hero. It's extremely powerful when played right in the right deck. Because not only the Merciful keyword not only gives you the ability to add a card with a critical cost that's equal to or lower than this hero from any mortuary, any player's mortuary into your hand. When you play this card, you can play this card from the battlefield. You can play this card from your mortuary after it dies on the battlefield. You can play it from your deck if you can see it. If you can physically see it in your deck, and then I think that those are the only two. And you can play it in the void zone from the void zone. So it is a very powerful effect. So you can always play this. You can pretty much almost always play this card if you can see it. And you get to summon even more creatures. You get more cards from your hand from your Okay, so that's where I messed up. It's supposed to be move a card with a critical from your mortuary, so you can't move another card with a critical cost of 5 or lower from your mortuary into your hand. So this is where I messed up. Move a card with a critical cost of 5 or lower from your mortuary into your hand, then reduce its critical cost to 0. So 2, 5, 5. There we go. So I just have to save it as the rare version. And then I'll go back to the unique version, which is 3, 6, 6, 6. So that's pretty much why I pretty much go back again to check it, just to see, if I haven't made any errors or not. If I've made any errors or not. And now let's go back to the to the brilliant version. Then just change it again. So 4, 7, 7. Oops. 7. So what the word summon means is pretty much just you can play it from your mortuary without paying its critical cost. I'm sorry about that. Summon just simply means you can play without paying its critical cost. But right now you're playing it from your mortuary, so yeah, you can play it without paying its critical cost. So brilliant. And then okay, I'm not messing with this one. I guess it really doesn't matter which one I do. I'll be messing with it anyways. So 4, 4, 4. And then summon a squire. Oops. Summon a squire. let me see where I can save it. I mean, where I can cut it off from. This heroes. The summon creature gains quick. There we go. So summon a squire from your mortuary with a crystal cost that's equal to or lower than this heroes. The summoned creature gains quick. And that's it. And then just copy and paste. I mean, not copy and paste, I mean double click. And that's it. I'll try to work on this again just to see, you know, but it's best to at least have my idea on a, you know, on a card, so I can, you know, have something to work with before I start editing again if I want to. And this should be all 7 heroes. Hero 1. Let's check out the brilliant version. Merciful War Cries. Set the health points of all players to 27. Squires you play gain +1 attack points until the end of the turn that they are played. When a squire under your control first dies in a turn, gain +4 HP. And then this one. Merciful again. When a knight under your control first attacks or dies in a turn, deal 4 damage to an enemy creature. When a squire under your control first dies during an opponent player's turn. Scope 1 means look at the top 1 card of your deck. Then you may either place it in your mortuary or place it at the bottom of your deck. If you place it in your mortuary, you get to draw a card from the top of your deck. And then move up to 4 creatures from your mortuary into your hand. So there's that. And then third, you are optimistic while this is under your control on the battlefield. So this is where the status is different from an effect. A status is like being a player. A player is a status. A card is a card is a status. So this is why this while an effect is something that has to be activated, a status is something that's just natural. It can't be turned on or off. It's just what it is. So you're optimistic. Well, obviously with this type of status, you can gain it, you can lose it, but for the most part, statuses are different from effects in that it can't really be turned on and off. So you're optimistic while this hero is under your control. And what that means is that while you're optimistic, you can look at the top card of your deck. You can play any number. You can play any of them. So any time during your turn, you can look at the top. Anytime during the game, you can look at the top card of your deck. But during your turn, you can play you can play the top card of your deck whenever you want. So not only do you have cards in your hand to play with, you can also play the top card of your deck as well. So cards that you played from any zone on the game board, other than your hand, cost 1 crystal less to play. When you first play a card during your turn from your deck, summon a 4 crystal cost 1/1, 1 attack points, 2 defense points, 1 health point. Squire token human creature. See, this is where the squire comes in, because that's the name of the card. Then the 4th one, I think I just clicked on it. Okay, I didn't. Creatures under your control gain a call while they are under your control. Then when the squire first enters the battlefield under your control in the turn, it gains your choice of quick or brave until the end of the turn. That's 7 cost. Then I think we just worked on 5, 6, and 7 today. Yep, I think we worked on 5, 6, and 7 today. So I tried to you know, make the heroes have, you know, at least one lower cost card, relatively lower cost crystal cost card. That way, if you don't really care what hero you play, but you're more focused on the skills of that hero, it gives you more option to give you the option to play the heroes as quickly as possible, so you can play the skills. While some heroes cost more because it's the heroes itself that has you care the most about in that deck. So the heroes have a higher cost, they have a more powerful effect. But usually those cards, heroes that have a high cost, are it takes longer for you to play them before you have access to playing their skills, because you can only play a skill after you have the hero on your side of the board. So that's it for today. I'll go over the heroes again, but not after I finish working on the. I'll go over the heroes again one more time after I finish creating all the heroes. So at least